Like I said, last week we were on the road this last weekend at Illinois State and Indiana State, and it was our first week that we actually could get in the gym and get some good practice in. So very happy with our practice this last week. I thought we made some improvements in a lot of areas. Obviously, we still have a lot of things we'd like to continue to get better at, but it was a good week of practice for us. We had Illinois State on Friday, and as I said last week, that has always been a tough place for us to play. But I felt going into that match that we were very well prepared. Like I said, we had a good week of practice. Our warm-up was probably one of the best warm-ups we've had all year. And then heading into the match, I think we carried it over in that first game. We ended up winning 25-16. And then after that, not really sure what happened, but I think it became a game that was kind of ugly on both sides of the net. There was a lot of errors, attacking errors. I think Illinois State had 25, we had 20. And really, you know, offensively, that's an area that we continue to want to get better at. And we had a lot of practice with different things this week with that. I did not feel like we executed extremely well on that side in that match. We were able to win those two games, both by 2 points, but I think, you know, we didn't really, in my mind, earn those two games. I think Illinois State gave us the last few points of that, both of those games. So a little bit disappointing on that side. We headed to Indiana State, and the reverse of that, I thought we had one of the best matches we've played all year. In terms of our execution, both offensively and defensively. We hit 360, which has to be our highest of the year, and we held Indiana State to 0-29. So really we're able to take them out of what they like to do. So proud of the turnaround. I thought that, like I said, the execution was very good and a great way for us to end out the weekend. Heading into this week, it's a huge week for us in terms of conference play. Obviously, we're extremely excited to be at home for our first round of conference, and actually only for our second and third matches of the year. So our kids are really excited about that. We do bring two of the best teams in the conference to town. Friday night we have Missouri State, and Missouri State did a really good job of planning a very competitive non-conference schedule in that preseason. They played a lot of top teams. 4 of their losses have come from teams that are either in the top 25 or getting votes for the top 25, so they're obviously very prepared for the conference race. Right now, we haven't watched any video on either team, but statistically they're very good on both sides of the ball, offensively and defensively. They're always a very well-coached team, and we know the Bears always give us a run for our money, whether it's home or away. So we're looking forward to that match. Wichita State, as Colin said, is at 8:30 on Saturday night, and I know that sounds really late for an athletic event, but we can't tell you how much we would love for both of those matches to have the type of crowd that we're capable of getting. Wichita always seems to get 3,000 to 4,000 people when we go there, and we'd really like to make sure that we're doing the same for them when they come here. So I know it's late, but we would love the support. Wichita State also had a great preseason schedule. They beat top 25 Colorado State. They also went 5 games with both BYU and Tennessee, who are in the top 25. So they've played some of the best teams of the country and have also competed well with those teams. So a very good team. I think Wichita is probably the most physical team in our conference. They're also very well trained offensively and defensively, well coached, and will be very prepared for our match. So the one thing that both of those teams have that we have not seen very much of at all this season is they have very physical and active setters. So that's something that we're definitely going to have to prepare for throughout this week. We have not seen that. We've not really worked against that in practice at all because it's not something that we've needed to. So that's going to be something that we really have to focus on is those active setters. So looking forward to the practice week. As Colin said, we're also excited about Saturday and having our 2001 team inducted into the Hall of Fame with a great group of other inductees. So we're excited about that. Most of that team is going to be able to be back for that. So a great weekend to be able to sit back and reminisce and have some of those players from the past there to also watch our current team. And hopefully that's very motivating for our current team as well. So a very exciting weekend ahead. Like I said, a big preparation week for us, and I know our kids are excited to get in the gym today, this afternoon, and get prepared for the week. So any questions?
With that practice tonight, what do you plan to work on the most?
The biggest thing for us, the first two days will definitely be our transition offense. That is the area that we have to get better at, and fairly quickly in my mind. Like I said last week, we're digging a lot of balls, but we have to be able to transition and put something back over the net that at least challenges the opponent. So we'll work on a lot of transition offense. Some of it, is just the plays that we run out of transition. We're going to have to evaluate that, but some of it is just pure execution on our offense.
Things you worked on in practice last week, did you see those show up during your matches?
Definitely, and one of the main things we've been working on is our blocking and trying to add some new things to it, and I thought our kids did an excellent job. There was one rotation against Indiana State. I'm not sure how many points we got in that rotation, but it was a lot, and it was completely because of our blocking execution. And sometimes, the blocking execution isn't just the number of blocks you're getting. There's a lot of things that go into it. It's funneling it to the right people. It's slowing down the ball. So it's not really the number of blocks you get per game that really determines whether you're doing a good job blocking or not. But I thought this weekend, both matches, we did a nice job on the blocking side.
With Macy Euban now at right side and Shelby Kinsel moved to the middle, how have you thought about the way Shelby stepped up these last couple of matches?
Shelby's been great, and she's somebody we actually at the beginning of preseason wanted to keep in the middle. I think when we add Courtney into the mix, sometimes it just adds more options for us. If we have a big hitter on the outside, we like to put Shelby out there just more for blocking as opposed to her offense. But Shelby has improved, I think, even in the last couple of weeks in her ability. Our offense in the middle has to be very fast, and I think that's the part that Shelby early in the season was struggling with a little bit, but she's gotten better and better with that each week.
Something else you've talked about a lot with us before is the serving. Just how do you think about the way the serving went between Illinois State and Indiana State?
I think serving against Illinois State was pretty average. I didn't feel like after watching video that Illinois State was an extremely strong passing team. And I thought we made it pretty easy for them to run their offense. So I thought we could have done a better job against Indiana State. I think serving was a big part of why our defense could do what it did. We left them with only one or two options most of the time, so I definitely picked it up. There's a lot of research done that when you serve and pass game when you're away is a lot different than when you're at home, and I'm beginning to start to believe that a little bit. So.
You played a really tough non-conference schedule, a lot of rated teams. Does Missouri State, Wichita State, do they compare to some of those rated teams you played or not?
They, we have not seen them on video yet, but just by what they're doing against the teams that they've played against, they definitely do. And, we have conversations with other coaches around the country and just what they've said about the teams when they've played. Colorado State, their comment was this is one of the best teams in the country after they got beat by Wichita. So we definitely know what they're capable of year in and year out. I feel like those teams are top 25. Just sometimes it depends on who you play, whether you get a chance to even get into the top 25. But always year in and year out, very solid teams.
That 2001 team, what did they mean to the profile of your program? Did they kind of make people maybe around the region and around the country, just outside of Iowa, kind of take notice of what was happening?
Definitely. I think, before that, we had many teams that I think started to get more recognition nationally, but I think what that team was able to do that year, I think is the first time we actually beat ranked teams besides playing ranked teams and some pretty highly ranked teams. But I think, that was the year that we really started to get real looks. I think, you always got the looks from people that are in the business, that are coaching day in and day out, but just from more the outside people in the volleyball world, I think was the first time we really got that kind of recognition. But a very special team for sure, and just really looking forward to seeing those kids. Not kids anymore.
Do you feel like they're old enough to be Hall of Famers just yet?
I still remember them as the 2001 team in that age, even though I keep in contact with most of them. But, they are, and I think it's just because of what they were able to do. I think they're very deserving of it.
I see the attendance for the Indiana State game shows at 132, and the broadcast, the announcer said the place holds about 500. Do you have to do anything different to prepare for an environment like that?
the one thing that I think has been, another thing that's been a huge positive for us this year has been our bench. We really, when we are in matches like that, get the bench involved. It actually was a fairly loud match, just because it's a very small facility, and I think our bench challenged themselves to make sure that they made the match an atmosphere that was worth playing in. And it's tough. You know, there wasn't very many people, but I think the 132 that were there did a nice job of making the match. We've been at other places where there's probably more people, but the facility's a lot smaller, so it doesn't feel like there's very many people there. But I think it's tough, and I think it really makes our kids appreciate when they get the opportunity to be at home and see the support that we get here. Okay. All right. Oh.
How's Rachel Pate's health?
She actually is doing more as far as conditioning and things like that, but she has not been on the volleyball court yet. We're looking at maybe another week to 2 weeks before she gets the opportunity to do that. Part of it is just being a little bit careful right now, just because we feel at this point she's probably going to be too far behind to really help us this season. So we're being probably a little bit more conservative with her and getting her back on the court. All right, thank you.